Welcome to Infinite Wealth Podcast. I'm Cameron Christensen, along with our co-host Anthony Faso. We just wrapped up our interview with Ryan Pineda. Ryan is a true entrepreneur. Yeah. He has created a business that he is flipping houses. He's wrote a book on it. He also has a coaching program. He also owns a real estate brokerage, and more recently, he just created kind of an accounting firm as well. Anthony, what were some of your takeaways here?
Well, before I give you my takeaways, let me share why I wanted Ryan on our show. Now, it's not because he's an entrepreneur, because he has a book, or because he's an actual good dude, which is important. One thing I want to do with our podcast, I'm trying to get guests that are going to have better hair than Cameron. So we had Alex Felice on a while ago, and we have Ryan Pineda. So there's some great stuff, good content, and some great hair. Okay. But some of the takeaways that I had, one thing he had said is that his job was slowing down his success. He had started a business on the side flipping properties, but he had this job thing and once he made the commitment and stopped working and put full time into his business, that's when he saw real success. And also, he's a big fan of investing in himself, which is so important. If you want to learn something new, you want to start a business or be more active in your finances, you're going to have to learn about it. And sometimes that may cost money, whether it's a course or a book or whatever. But, our philosophy is that you are your number one asset. What takeaways did you have, Cam?
Believe it or not, my takeaway is actually something I said.
It sounds like something I'd say.
Exactly. No, I'm joking. It was a comment that we made during the conversation, and really I was giving some compliments to Ryan in regards to a video that he made. It was on ryanpineda.com, and the video that he made was talking, it was about a 5-minute video, and it was talking about short-term, long-term investments, and the second half of that video was talking about velocity of money and the ability to turn a dollar. And that's for me that it clicked, is because really the businesses that he has created, he's created those because he saw a need. But then all it really is an opportunity to turn a dollar and to keep his money in motion, right? And that is one of the things that is kind of the essence of being an entrepreneur. Is what happens with a lot of people. Traditional financial advice is, hey, take your dollar, put it here, and just let it sit here for 30 years, 40 years. Whereas entrepreneurs don't think like that, right? Entrepreneurs see a need and they go and they fill it. And really, Ryan's just a great example of seeing a need and filling it, and then also just turning that dollar over and over again. And as you can see, it just leads to success. And so that's a fundamental idea that I think a lot of people kind of miss early on. And so I'll be sure to include that video link in the show notes.
And also, if this is something that you want to learn more, particularly infinite banking can really help you in whatever investing you're doing, flipping houses or buying and holding. If you want to learn more about infinite banking, we have a link in the show notes for a discovery call where you get on with Cameron or I. We're kind of explain and see if this is a good fit for you and what your next steps are. So enjoy this episode.
Thanks for your time. I really appreciate you joining us today. And Ryan, if we could, we're going to jump right into it. If you could kind of tell us how you got started just in real estate in general. I know you've got a really interesting story that it was kind of on the sidelines of baseball originally, but if you could take it from there, that'd be great.
Yeah, I'll try and give the 2-minute version. So fast forward to 21 years old, I got drafted by the Oakland A's, and I was a late round pick, so didn't get a big signing bonus. Knew I would need a side job, and most people don't want to hire you if you leave 6 months out of the year. So said I got to be an entrepreneur, I guess, and ended up getting my real estate license. And the problem was in 2010, it was tough to be a realtor. Right now, I look at the realtors and I watch them complain. And I'm like, you guys are so soft. You don't get it. Yeah. Trying to, sell a house in 2010 when everyone had just went bankrupt, when prices were stupid cheap. Even if you did sell something, you didn't make much. So for me, as a realtor, I started out at the hardest time and I hated it. If I started out now, I think it'd be a much different story. Maybe I would have went down that path as a realtor. But yeah, I got tired of it after a couple of years and I quit and started doing other side hustles. I was doing other entrepreneurial things, mainly because I had to. I was still playing baseball and I had no choice. I couldn't get a real job. And I'm thankful for that because it led me to where I'm at today. And I don't know that I could ever work for anyone anyway. But, I was doing side hustles, selling cell phones, selling couches, selling appliances, anything you could imagine on Craigslist. And I was making really good money doing it. Probably like $8,000 a month. So,
Wow.
I was making a good living just hustling, which as a 24-year-old, I was making more than, all my friends who were like just getting out of college.
Sure. Yeah.
But long story short, I didn't like that either. Wasn't fulfilling. And I also had reached a point where I realized I was at the ceiling of what I could do. It's like, man, I'm doing the very best I could possibly do in this business. And I didn't realize that I was, I was learning these business concepts from this first business of like, hey, once you reach a plateau, you got to do something different, or just that industry is what it is. You cannot make any more.
Yeah.
And so I got into real estate. I read a couple of books about real estate investing and house flipping. And I said, all right, I'll do this. And I ended up maxing out all my credit cards to pull out some cash to use for a down payment. Ended up getting a super high interest hard money loan and bought my first flip. And now I didn't have very much money. I just was hoping it would work out, and it did. So in 2015, I bought that first deal. And since then, I've probably bought almost another 400. And here we are today, man, doing a lot of different things at this point, though.
Yeah, I look forward to kind of getting into those different things because you've got kind of a portfolio of businesses that you've built last couple of years. But let's jump back there into that first couple of years, right? So you've done over 400, but what year was it when you got started? 15, 16-ish? Did I hear it right?
Yeah, so I got licensed in 2010, and I had bought a primary residence and, done a couple of deals, but nothing like major. And 2015 was when I decided, you know what, I'm just going to go all in at this.
Well, Ryan, at that point, were you and Mindy married?
Yeah, we got married in 2013. So she wasn't working at all. She was in college.
Okay. So how was it to tell her, hey, you know what, we're going to max out our credit cards, just trust me, I got this. Like,
yeah, I have this conversation a lot because I teach education as well. And one of the questions is always, how do I get my spouse on board? Maybe they have an ultra conservative, risk averse wife or spouse. Mm-hmm. And that's a tough thing, man. I think, number one, obviously, if they're super risk averse and it's going to affect your marriage and, they don't want you to do it, then you're kind of out of luck, man.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know what to tell you. But luckily for me, Mindy is super chill. She has all the trust in the world in what I'm doing. And she's like, hey, you know what? Like, I trust my husband and what he's doing. Like, he's going to figure out how to get it done. He always has, and he will. And even today, it's like, we've made a lot of money, but I'm still pretty risky. I still will bet the house and put it all in, and she's still like, all right, you've proven yourself this far, might as well just keep it rolling.
That's what I was going to say kind of what I heard you say was, man, you had that entrepreneurial spirit, right? You're flipping couches and phones and whatever else you kind of mentioned there. And you had a decent income, right? And so you kind of had developed somewhat of a track record with her. So she's like, all right, I see where you're going with this. And one of the things that we always talk to clients about is developing some sort of skill set, right? And that's what you were doing in that kind of interim, right? What you just talked about, that you were then transitioning over into houses. So, yeah, right. I could see why she trusts you.
Yeah. And I'm a good negotiator too, because I had to sell her on the idea. It's not just like, I'm doing this, thanks, bye. Yeah. It's like, hey, this is what's going to happen. It might be scary, but I got a good feeling it's going to work out.
Awesome. So you've done some houses, right? 2015 or so, and First couple years, how many houses do you think you did a year?
Someone asked me this on Instagram the other day, so I actually did have to count it out. In 2015, I bought 5 homes. My very first year, with no money. Every flip that sold, I just roll it into the next home, and I still had kept my credit cards maxed out for years. Even today, I still max them out. I don't care. And 2016, I did 20. 2017, I jumped to 50. 2018, I did 150. 2019 last year was our first year of negative growth. We did 100.
Okay.
And that was my first plateau in real estate where I'm like, whoa, okay, why did we get worse? What happened here? And it was good, man. I think you learn a lot of lessons from failing. We had a lot of deals that lost money. We kind of got complacent. We got fat, thinking oh man, we could be freaking anything I touch turns to gold. And that happened. And so 2019 was a reality check. 2020, we're back on track. I wouldn't say the volume is going to be, super crazy. It's going to be over 100, but the margins, the way we run our business, everything is so much better than last year.
I want to touch on that here in a minute, because I do want to kind of bring it up to current times, because this is a unique environment that everybody's kind of operating in right now. So I want to touch on that. But I'd like to talk about that 2016 to 2017 jump when you went from 20 to 53. How did you do that? That's more than double.
Yeah, so I tripled every year, because I went 5 to 20 to 50 to 150. I think a lot of things happened. Number one, I retired from baseball. So my first year of retirement was 2017. So midway through the year, I finally retired. I had gotten released. My business was growing, which was a good problem, but it was causing me a lot of stress being, in another state playing baseball. And at that point, I was finally man, okay, I'm going to have to just quit baseball and go full time. And it's not like it was a tough decision. I was kind of burnt out at that point. I played this game for the first 27 years of my life. I was like, you know what? It's time to go on with the next phase of my life. So once I retired, you got to remember, I was kind of handicapping myself by being gone half the year. And even the half of the year that I was here, I was training for baseball, doing things for baseball. And so once I went full time, totally focused at it, to me, it was just natural that it was going to, become way bigger than it was.
And those are impressive numbers at 53. Are you still operating kind of on your own with maybe a partner at this point? Because a lot of the kind of fix and flippers or people that I've talked to at that point, if they're working on their own, it's usually maybe 1, 2, maybe 3 a month.
Yeah. So no, we have a big team right now. Let's see if I can. So we're in our office.
Great office.
See all
yeah.
the people. So those are sales guys. Well, right now it's lunch, so they're all out at lunch right now. But no, we have a big sales team. I've got project managers, COO. I don't really do much, man, honestly, as far as the flipping goes at this point, which is great.
Sounds like Anthony.
Yeah, there you go. All you do is just talk on podcasts. Same thing.
That's the goal. So a couple thoughts here. One, I watch on the weekends, we have HDTV kind of running in the background, and a lot of those are these flip or flop or some of these shows. I've never seen them lose money, but you just said you lost some money on a deal. I thought with flipping, every deal is a moneymaker.
I know. I wish it was, man. I wish. Thankfully, what I'll say is when I first started out, I was ultra conservative. Well, it's hard to say I was conservative, right, with my story. But I was conservative on the deals. I did not chase deals. I'm like, hey, this is my buy box. I know that I'm going to be good. And I think I had 70 deals before I ever lost on one. So
wow.
That was huge, because if I would have lost on one at the beginning, I'm toast.
Yeah.
So I think when you're starting out, you have to be somewhat conservative, somewhat aggressive. Because there are the people who just never start at all because they're so conservative. So I did good the first bunch, finally lost on my first one, I remember it. I lost about 20 grand, and I was like, oh man, that sucked. But it is what it is. Fast forward to growing my wealth and building a team and other stuff, and I'm like, all right, we can take more chances at doing volume, right? Because when you do volume, you're trading lower margins to do more volume. And with lower margins comes more risk, right? You have less cushion to fail. And so what happened in 2018 was I, did 150, like I said, but we also had the most appreciation in the nation in Vegas. And so I got bailed out of a lot of bad deals I bought because of appreciation. And I didn't realize it was happening because I just saw, oh, we made 20 grand. We made 20 grand. This is great. And I didn't realize that, yeah, a lot of that profit was because of appreciation. We, had things stayed the same, we would have broke even or slightly lost. So anyways, I had to pay the piper come 2019 when, if you guys would remember, back in late 2018, they decided to raise interest rates, and it kind of crushed our market for like 3 to 6 months. Like nothing happened. And I got stuck holding all these properties, had to finally sell them all off, lost a few $100,000. I was like, all right, I'm going to have to go back to the basics of, buying these the right way, understanding, hey, if appreciation happens, great. If not, I'm still buying this deal based on today's values. And, I learned my lesson. This year, it's kind of more of the same. It's like, hey, we're going into an environment that's very unknown. We don't know how this is going to play out. We have to buy very conservative. And it's been good because this year, the houses we did buy, they've been making a lot of money because we're buying ultra conservative, but prices have stayed stable. Now that we don't know that they're going to stay stable the next 6 months, I'm still buying very conservative. I'd rather buy less and take big margins in today's climate. So yes, I've lost quite a bit of dough flipping houses, but I've also made a lot.
So what I am hearing is that by having those losses, you've learned from them, and it's making you, is it going to make your business stronger? Is that fair to say in the future?
Yeah, like I said, if in 2018, that was the first year I had really run a big team. Up to 2017, it was just me by myself. Then I hired one guy to just help me out. That was it. And, I could make great money doing that, buying, like you said, 3-4 a month. But when I said, hey, I'm going full time, I can't help but just try and dominate and be the best. And so I said, all right, here's the pieces I need to be the best. I need a marketing team. I need more project managers because we're going to buy more. I need to raise more money. Like I already knew the steps. And, we did it. I accomplished all of it. We did it. But what I failed at was realizing my project managers were getting overwhelmed because we bought so many. In turn, they were getting terrible prices on the rehabs because they're just trying to get them done and they're swamped. And so it's like something that should have cost $30,000 was now costing $40,000 just because they're like, oh, we got to get it done. We got to get it done. And so that was killing us. So, I think the thing I learned from all that was accountability. And I mean, I've learned a ton of lessons, but yeah, I don't even remember what the question was.
Well, it's just that going through difficult times can make you stronger. And I'm about to give Cameron a compliment. He recommended a book called Anti-Fragile.
Okay.
That I'm reading right now. And correct me if I'm wrong, Cameron, which I'm sure you will.
Gladly.
But as things are fragile, they have pressure obtained to them, they're going to break. But something that's the opposite of that is something that gets stronger when pressure is applied. And so he termed that anti-fragile. So sometimes even as a team, if you go through some diversity or as a marriage, you go through some trials, it actually brings you stronger. So I just thought I don't know if I've given Cameron a compliment on this podcast.
We're in episode 50. I don't know why to start now.
I know. I bet. Well, let's talk about money. Right? You've mentioned using credit cards, also hard money lenders. You actually have a really good video about the different types of hard money lender. You want to explain to me? I mean, Cameron might say, that interest rate is so high. Why would I pay 12% in all these points when I could get money at 3 or 4%? So
Right.
you kind of explain why the advantages of using hard money.
Yeah, I think it's for those who don't know, hard money is just pretty much lenders for fix and flip houses. It's very different than your loans you're seeing today that are at the 2s and 3%. These are very short term, typically 6 to 12 months. The interest is high, typically 9 to 12%. You have to pay some origination on top of that. So they're super expensive loans. And so the reason why you would take these loans over the traditional 30-year loans is that you can get them quick. If I get a deal today, I can go to my hard money lender, send him the details. He's going to be like, yeah, I'll fund this next week. You can't do that with Wells Fargo or whatever. They're going to freaking make you send 1 million documents. They're going to do an appraisal. They're going to do this and that. And then maybe in 30 days, you might buy it. And unfortunately, deals, time is urgency, time is money. So they ain't going to take your offer. The only reason they're willing to take a discount is because you're ready to close right now. So that's the advantage of hard money. You can't really look at it as, man, I'm paying all this cost. You look at it like, man, if I don't do this, I don't make any money. I'm not going to get the deal. So it's honestly a cost of doing business is really all it comes down to.
What Nelson Nash talked about in his book, Becoming Your Own Banker, it's not about the rate of return. It's about the volume or the dollars. So when you're doing a deal, you're not focused on the percentage. It's just really, can I make money by paying this interest? Right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's with anything. I mean, like when I maxed out my credit cards, right? What was I paying interest? 20%. I'm like, hey, you know what? If I don't do this, I can't make any money. So that's the scenario. Make no money or pay to play. And we do the same thing now. Like, I think at this point with all my businesses, my monthly nut is probably around 100K. And that's just with, marketing is a huge portion of that. Employees are a huge portion of that, right? But it's like, that's what you got to do to pay to play. And it's, if I don't do that, I can't do what I do. So
you mentioned a couple different businesses for our listeners. Can you let them know kind of what you're into? What are the businesses you got?
Yeah, so my core business, that's the backbone of everything, is my house flipping operation. And like I said, we've been talking about that this whole time. But then the other businesses kind of have spawned from that. One is my education business called Future Flipper. And that is where I've got multiple education products. I've wrote a book. I've got an online course. There's the book right there. I love it. I've got my coaching program, which is really cool. I get to personally coach people all across the country, and that whole thing is growing pretty rapidly. So, I honestly think at some point that business will overtake the flipping business, believe it or not.
Wow.
But so that's my second business. My third business would be my brokerage, Forever Home Realty, which is in Vegas only, and we've got 50 agents here in town, and we're making a push to grow that. The agent business is cool. I like it for many reasons. One is we do all these flips anyway. We might as well be the ones getting all the exposure on it for our brokerage. And then obviously we get all the discounts and fees that come with, hey, we list everything in-house. It's much simpler that way. We're not paying someone else. And then, agents are good residual income, but we also partner with agents on deals. So it also ends up being a good deal source as well. And then the last business would be my CPA company. We were kind of talking about that beforehand. So that's called TrueBuck CPA. And that idea spawned from just always looking for a CPA, man. Like I just could not find a good one over all the years I was investing because they just didn't understand real estate. And eventually I found my partner, Matt, and I honestly was hesitant to even use him because he's a young guy. And I'm a young guy too, but I was saying this on another podcast. I think I had ageism, whatever, with him. I'm like, hey, you don't have the experience that I need. I need somebody who's been through the trenches. But I was wrong, man. He did have experience. He'd been doing it for a long time. He had worked at big companies, and he was just 1,000 times more hungry than some old Joe Schmo CPA that had been doing it forever and who was comfy and content with their company. So, I hired him, and I was very happy with what I ended up paying, or lack thereof. Mm-hmm. And eventually I came to him with the idea. I don't know who brought it up. It might have been him. One of us brought it up. We were at one of our company parties for the brokerage, and we were both drinking, just having a couple of cocktails, and it just came up, and I was like, dude, that's not a bad idea. We should just start a company. And we did. And we started this January, and it's been great. We've got real estate investors and agents from all across the country using our services. And, the biggest benefit for me, obviously, is having a CPA in-house at all times, right? Like, I know exactly what my numbers are, everything. So that's the big benefit, but we also make, good money representing other people.
That's one of the benefits Cameron has of us teaming together. I actually have known Matt for, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 years before you guys got connected. And yeah. I give a little plug out to Matt. I've sat down and talked to him how infinite banking works and kind of shows him how we can maximize the tax deductions with that. He also understands real estate, obviously by working with Ryan. But so if you're in real estate and or infinite banking, Matt is very knowledgeable.
We'll be sure to put the link in there to True Books along with everything else that you already mentioned, because we do work with a bunch of real estate investors, and almost to, down to every single one of them, there's always a frustration there when it comes to taxes. Whether they try to do it on their own, it's a mess, or whether they're trying to find somebody, it just doesn't quite click. So you do have to find somebody that's specialized. So be a great resource for our listeners.
It's so hard to find a good CPA since I retired and became a recovering CPA. But Matt is a good dude. Now, and I tell you what I like is that you have that entrepreneurial spirit. You found a need and created a business, which I think is pretty cool.
So yeah, I think with all businesses, I advise a lot of entrepreneurs, because I've done, a lot of businesses in the very short time that I've decided to do business and not focus on being a baseball player. And it's just like, I've realized every business runs the same. You've got sales, marketing, operations. That's it. It's literally that simple. And most people fail at one of them. They fail at sales. They can't, they generate leads, but they can't close them. Or they fail at marketing. They just have no leads coming in. Or maybe they fail at operations. They can't service the client properly. But once you combine all three, it's really not that hard. I mean, as long as you have a product that's in demand, like accounting, which is obviously in demand for literally every citizen in the United States, it's like, man, okay, that's a business. There's a need for that product tremendously. So I kind of just listen for, hey, where's the opportunity that people are like, man, I just can never figure this out.
Yeah. Find a need and go fill it, right?
Yep.
One of the things that I've kind of heard a theme coming up is you kind of leading or starting these businesses, and along with that comes personal development. Right? Can you maybe touch on some of the things that you've done over the years to kind of develop your skill set? I mean, nobody wakes up and comes out of bed an entrepreneur. I mean, that's a skill set that you develop over time. Can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think being an entrepreneur, it's tough because, right, you don't have anyone telling you what to do. Yep. And most people, they're not disciplined enough to figure it out, because when you have just all the time in the world and the freedom to do what you want, you typically make the wrong choices. And so for me, I talk about having a life full of balance. And so like I created an acronym called RAISE. And so like we got these shirts and everyone knows it, like, relationships, assets, intellect, spirit, exercise. And like for me, I got to make sure that my life and my schedule reflects all 5 of those things every day. Because most entrepreneurs, they only focus on business. And so they'll work 12 hours a day, grinding, doing whatever for their business, and then they go and neglect their family. Or they go and neglect their faith. They go and neglect their health, right? You see it all the time. You see these fat cats. They're called fat cats for a reason, right? Because they just neglect their health. You see a lot of people walk away from faith or, become distant from God because they're just too busy. You see divorces because they work too much. They don't come home at times. So it's like, for me, everything I do revolves around balance. And so, like, if you look at my schedule, everything reflects that. It's like the very first thing I do in the morning, I have my morning routine and I spend time with God. I read my Bible, I pray, I do all those things, right? Cool. I've done that. Now I go work out. Okay. I've hit exercise. Great. Because I know that those two things are the hardest things for me to do once the day is going. So I try and knock them out immediately. From there, I go to work, right? I'm working on my assets. I'm working on building my wealth and my money. Cool. Then I come home every day at 5. So it's like, I won't stay in the office past 5 o'clock. And from there, like, if I didn't get everything I need to get done, that's on me. I got to go pick up the pace, the next work day. But the funny thing is, when you have a time limit, you find a way to get it done. You know what I'm saying? Whereas when you think you have the whole day to do it, you just kind of space it out through the whole day. So I'm very productive, and people know I don't waste time. It's like, hey, I'm going to get this done right now. Do not bother me. And then lastly, intellect would just be self-development. And so when I get home and I put the kids to bed, we have dinner and stuff, I'll probably spend about 30 minutes reading some type of book. So every single day, it's like the exact same, like clockwork. I'm just working on all those aspects of my life.
Well, that reminds me what Parkinson's Law is what it was called, that work expands to time allowed, right? If you have a whole day to do this project, you're going to get it done in that day. But if you have 4 hours to get that project done, you will find a way to get that done. I know, like, before I go out of town, man, I'm so efficient that day because I gotta leave at a certain time, and I'm just trying to maximize becoming very efficient.
Right.
And investing in yourself is one of the key pillars that we promote. Can you share? I mean, reading every day is awesome, but I know you've invested in yourself more than just reading a book. Now,
Right.
can you expand why that is so important? Because you've actually spent a lot of money on investing in yourself. Can you kind of expand on that?
Yeah. So, with self-development and intellect, right? One of the things that I do is I set yearly goals based on all those aspects. And so I actually just filmed a YouTube about this. So it's like, whether it's relationships, faith, money, like, I have goals for all of them. And so, like, with self-development, a few of my goals this year were to, number one, attend 4 seminars. I want to go pay for 4 of the best seminars I can attend. That's kind of hard with COVID, but there's a lot of virtual stuff going on. But another one was to read 52 books. I'm on pace to read 52 books, 1 a week.
Wow.
And another one was to hire a new coach that I have not hired before. So, like, this year, for instance, I'm trying to think what I've spent. I probably spent like 50 G's this year on self-development. So I spent 25 grand to be a part of a real estate mastermind that is nationwide. You got to be doing a certain amount of deals to be a part of it. So meets 4 times a year. And that's been great. One of the smartest things I ever did was pay into that mastermind. And the thing is, with paying into masterminds and things like that, yeah, it costs a lot of money, but I mean, it's meant to weed out the people who shouldn't be there. If you can't afford it, you don't deserve to be there. That's what it comes down to. Second thing was, I think I paid another coach 17 grand to come fly out to Vegas and train us on business development for 3 days. So he trained my team on organizational structure, actually understanding what the positions in our company were, who's responsible, teaching us how to hire people properly for the positions. So it's been a game changer. I learned a ton just from that. And, just random things that I buy here or there, just online courses to teach myself. Like, my YouTube has been growing really good because I bought a YouTube course to do it. Because I'm like, look, if I'm going to do this, I might as well just accelerate it. I can pay to accelerate my development whereas most people can't. So I got to use my resources to my advantage and just keep accelerating.
Awesome. Well, I know time's kind of running short. I'd like to get back into a little bit more about flipping real estate. And I know actually your book, I think, is very good. There's not a lot of fluff in it. It's really kind of telling you what to do, which is great. So I would recommend, if you're interested in flipping property, to get his book, and we will have that link in the show notes.
Yep.
What advice would you give to somebody who's interested and wants to flip properties? What advice would you give a rookie?
I mean, it's just literally what you said. Go read my book, Flip Your Future. I mean, there's literally no other advice I have. I mean, it's the whole reason I wrote the book. I mean, as you can tell, like, I'm super direct, no nonsense. That's how the book is written as well. Like, time is money. I mean, that's what we're talking about here, is like, how do you make the most out of your schedule and become as efficient as possible? And so with the book, it was literally to become efficient, because I knew I was, once again, a need, right? I had been asked the question so many times, how do I get into flipping houses? I was like, I'm freaking tired of answering this for 20 minutes every time someone asks me, can I go to coffee? Blah, blah, blah. I'm like, no, here's the book. Or go buy the book, right? If you can't buy the book, then you ain't going to flip a house. I can tell you that. So, it's really good. And, another thing is too, it's a good thing for my time. I don't meet with like a ton of people anymore because I just don't have the time. But if somebody tries to meet with me and they haven't read my book, it's no dice. I don't even have time to waste on you.
Awesome. No, that's one of the best things you can do, right? To get started is getting community. So does anybody, you've got the book, obviously, but then you've got a couple courses. Is there any sort of prerequisite that someone would need to get into some of your coaching programs? Or is it literally, hey, I have no background in real estate, but I want to get started, I can jump into this?
Yeah, I mean, you can definitely jump in with no experience. Question I always get is, should I get a license? Do I need a license? Like, no, you don't. You don't need anything. Like, literally, you are just the information away from getting your first deal. You just need to know what to do. And what we do is, like, on our website, futureflipper.com, there's a spot to just go apply. And so if you apply, put your information in, my membership director will chat with you, kind of get to know your situation, and recommend a product for you. Because, at the end of the day, there's a lot of different ways people learn. There are guys like me who could read a book and instantly, take action and do it. That's how I learned. There are people who can learn visually. So the online course is great. They need to see videos to be able to totally comprehend it. Mm-hmm. There are people who actually need me to help them. Okay. And it's like, okay, well, you're going to get in the coaching program, but they all have various price points. So I think for us, it's just like, hey, my membership director will feel them out and, figure out what's best for them. Like, if they truly want to learn, we have a product for you. It just is a matter of what's going to be best for you.
Awesome, man. You've got a bunch of really good content. You just mentioned one website, which was futureflipper.com, where somebody can apply to potentially work with you. The other one is ryanpineda.com that I saw, and I'm going to direct everybody to a video that I watched earlier. It was how to use your cash and leverage it properly. Man, I thought that was a great, maybe 5-minute video. You talked about long-term deals, short-term deals, but more importantly, in my opinion, was the idea of velocity of money, is keeping money in motion. And that idea right there is really what I think sets entrepreneurs apart from what I'll say is W-2 employees. Right, is W-2 employees are used to just contributing to an account, letting money sit there. Entrepreneurs like yourself are doing exactly what you're doing, where they're taking $1 and they're just turning it as many times in 1 year as you possibly can. And all your businesses really revolve around you seeing opportunities to turn $1.
Right.
Right.
Absolutely. Yep.
So that video right there was short, it was sweet, but man, it had a really good piece just on mindset, and I think everybody should watch that.
Nice. Where did you even find that? I remember I made that video quite a while ago. I need to redo a good one on YouTube.
I'll send you the link, but
I remember making it.
I'll put it in the show notes, but I'll get it to you, man. It was a great video. Be sure you get it.
Ryan, I got a question. I'm curious for the answer. we've had a lot of some other podcast episodes on the BUR strategy, right? Buy, rehab, rent, refinance, repeat.
Right.
You're not doing the last two, and I was just curious, why not, once you have these, refinance and rent it?
Yeah, so I actually do the BUR.
Okay.
And I'm maxed out on my conventional loan. So I've got 30 rental units too. I don't talk about it a lot, but I kind of cherry pick when a deal makes sense. I actually have a YouTube video coming out on that. So it seems like I got a YouTube video for all these topics you want to hear. So that's good. You got to give what the people are asking for.
Yeah.
So, like a common question I get, especially on like Instagram and TikTok, is how do you choose whether to flip it or rent it or keep it as a rental or wholesale it, And that's a great question. I talk about it in the video, but the long story of the short is with Vegas, it never really makes sense to keep it. Our cash flow is just so bad here. I buy say a $300,000 house, and I go to refinance it. I'm paying $1,800 a month, and it's like it'll still only rent for $1,500 to $1,800, so you won't make anything. So almost always, for me anyways, it's a no in Vegas. Now I do have rentals here because they were a yes. There was some weird circumstance that made them a yes. But like in Big Bear, where we just furnished last week, and I have 8 rental units, and I burned all of those. The rentals are insane. Just the cash flow you can make from Airbnb, I'm stupid. And you look at, you guys would know about it, but internal rate of return. I'm sure you go over it with your clients. Like the IRR with that, it makes way more sense to keep it than to flip it, especially when you take into account that you got to pay state income tax in California, and that sucks. And that's why everyone's moving here. Yeah. So it's like I almost never will flip a Big Bear property. I'll almost always rent it. And I think in like the Midwest and other states where they get a good returns, like you could buy a house for 50 G's in the Midwest and rent it for $1,000. It's like, yeah, okay. When it's making $400 a month versus flipping it to make 10,000, I would rather keep it. So for me, it's not that I don't want to. I don't actively look for rentals. When it makes sense, I keep it. And you got to also look at your cash position too. Some people can't afford to keep them. When it's like the decision between spending or like making 20K on a flip or keeping it long term. But if you don't make that 20K, you ain't in business next month.
Yeah,
you don't have a choice. So there's a lot of factors that would determine what's the best exit strategy.
Perfect.
Awesome, Ryan. Thanks, man. Really appreciate your time. I know you got just a few minutes here, so we're going to wrap this up. If somebody's looking for you, where can they find you?
And I just say find me on all my socials. Same handle for everything, Ryan Pineda Show. So that's my YouTube channel as well, which a lot of the long form content's on. Instagram, I'm active on there daily with my stories and stuff like that. And then I'm also on TikTok, which I'm guessing like none of your viewers are on, but they should be on.
Anthony's on there.
Well, then I'm telling you, it's going to overtake Instagram.
You think so?
You guys should definitely get on it before it's too late.
All right. Yeah, we'll be sure to check it out, and I will certainly make sure we got all those links in the show notes so that everybody can reach out to you. Ryan, thanks again, man. Really appreciate your time.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me on.